I'm Jim Woodell.
Hello, I'm Al Jolly, and this is my wife, Mary.
Okay, I'm Charles Coon, sometimes called Charlie.
Chuck Ball.
As I think about the church and hear about the successes that you have had over the years, I just delight in what the future holds for you, because I know you are a very positive congregation. I hear Chuck Ball every Sunday on my way to Rimmel, and enjoy hearing his refined lessons and the sincerity with which he shares those. And so I know the leadership there is a great group of men and women that are wanting to see the Cabot Church grow and prosper in the community. The church there was very small when we moved there, about 60 in number. We were getting $125 a month from Sixth and Izard to support our work there. We were really a mission for the Sixth and Izard congregation. And they were able, after our first tour there, toward the end of it, really just after a year, for us to turn that $125 back to them. And I was able to get an office chair that was not just a metal folding chair in my office. We were doing so well. And as I think about that and think about where you are now, I know God has blessed you and will continue to bless you as you grow and prosper.
I made the trip to Cabot, and she followed me in 1976 in November. The church office was way back in the back corner of the building, didn't have a window. There was AC and a heat pump, no desk or chair, just 3-drawer file cabinet. But that changed pretty quickly. We had a men's retreat in December to try to plan the work for the coming year. And the men decided that one of the biggest challenges was try to pay for the land that they had already purchased in order to get ready to build a new building. So consequently, we decided we would have a campaign about 3 months long to try to raise that money above what our contributions normally were. On the final day, we had all the classes meet together in the auditorium, and the little kids with their piggy banks came in, and every family had a jar with money in it, but they knew and I knew that we weren't going to make that goal with nickels, dimes, and quarters. So on that day when we counted it all, we were $6,000 short. But providentially, one of our men had taken over the responsibility of selling a mobile home that had been given to the church. That night, he reported that he had sold that mobile home, and guess how much? You guessed it, $6,000. Once the brethren began moving forward, they met every challenge. Like Nehemiah said, when the walls of Jerusalem were rebuilt in 52 days, the people had a mind to work. God was continuing to bless us. Good things were happening. 10 months after we moved to Cabot, we broke ground on a new building. 11 months later, we moved into that new building. Now, during this time, the attendance grew from around 200 to about 300. Contributions were larger. We were baptizing some, and some were moving in. And with special collections above normal contributions, we paid for the church pews in the new building and also a parking lot to be paved. Nearly a year later, we moved into a 2-story metal educational building, which were paid for by money from the sale of our old building that the Cabot school system bought. We had a weekend prayer seminar, and it had a great impact on the whole congregation. At one time, some need arose, and we had a 24-hour prayer chain. Later, something else had come up, and we came together from 6 o'clock till midnight in 2-hour segments, and families came and prayed. Almost everybody participated. We installed elders in December of 1980, and early that year we had a goal of 1,000, that we were trying to have with an upcoming gospel meeting. And we didn't have 1,000, but we did have 776. News spread throughout the town. No church in Cabot had ever had so many at one time on a Sunday. We were averaging about 325 later that year, and we had baptized 121, not counting 15 that I had baptized in gospel meetings and other places. We left Cabot after 5 years. I knew it was strong and had great leaders, and they would have no trouble finding a good preacher. And as I look at the situation around me now, I realize that I was right, and God has continued to bless this group.
During the time that I was here, the emphasis that the hiring committee wanted was an emphasis on evangelism. And so, because they were successful in Indiana, we brought it here and attempted to make it happen here. Dallas Swain was the man behind, let's do evangelism. And the end result of that is that he took what he learned and took it to Russia and converted the man who was the preacher that we dealt with. So Dallas was really an emphasis on evangelism. So we had training classes. The second aspect was to grow the church in different ways. And so we used attendance drives and information like that. We brought in people like Marvin Phillips, Jerry Jones, Jim Waddell, which you probably have a video on, Harold Hazlip, and others came here. Part of this emphasis was a special day. Jim Waddell, 3 unusual days. Jerry Jones, 3 unusual days, 2 unusual speakers. And we used gold days, brought in Harding students, and had attendance drives. And one of the weirdest ones, we had a number of 666. And I said, you've got to find another live person somewhere to change that number. They stayed with 666. We hit over 700 at a different time, twice, I think. So that was the emphasis on evangelism and building the church through those particular avenues. Successful? Who knows? Previous to coming here, the attendance when they dedicated this building was on an average 265 people. In 1982, it was 335 people. And it stayed in the 300s for almost 2 decades. And then it took off. And so we were missing something in between to make it happen.
In 1989, Mike and Carolyn Steiner moved to the Cabot Church of Christ to work with us. The Ingalls had already come here in 1986. So the Steiners and the Ingalls worked together in anything the elders had us to do for the members of the Lord's church and for this community. Mike Steiner, though, the first year here, him and Carolyn studied with 30 people or more, and they baptized 30 people. Jesus says, I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty, you gave me a drink. I was a stranger and you took me in. Mike Steiner and Carolyn took them in. They were great with people.
We were there from 95 to 2010. And when I think about our time there, I think about things like the Family Center being built. We went to 2 assemblies on Sunday morning, started small groups. I think that's when the men's and women's retreats also got started. And of course, TJ and Tessa came to work with us. And those are the quantifiable things that you can measure to some degree, but in the larger sense, what I really hope happened was that we allowed our lives to be transformed by God and to be salt and light in the community there.
Well, I think over the last 7 years, we've been really blessed at Cabot. I think we've seen steady growth. Our attendance, even the past few weeks, has been incredibly large, more than we expected, and I think that's just God blessing us. We've been really fortunate, but I think just God working in blessing us with growth. I see God use Cabot Church of Christ on a weekly basis. With our Friend's House, we're feeding folks, and I don't know how many meals a month, how many meals a year we're providing. Twice a month, opening that pantry and passing out groceries to folks that need them. Every year, right as school is starting, we provide school supplies and backpacks to kids in the community. And so I really think I see God using us a great deal, you know, in our community, which is what I think we're there for, what we're supposed to be doing. One of the unique things about I love the church in Cabot, and I love preaching there, and I'm the current preacher there, but one of the cool things or neat things is that two of our former preachers are members there. You know, Charlie and Jake, they've both made positive impact on me. I think they've made huge impact on the congregation, but I think it says a lot about a congregation when two former preachers stay right there and play an active role in the congregation after their tenure. I think that's pretty awesome. It says a lot about the church.
About tomorrow, there's three things that'll make a church great and make it grow. And one was and is to study God's Word. Second is to say God's Word or speak God's Word. And third is to do God's Word. And to study God's Word, the problem with the church is that we study all around what Jesus was about, what He said, what He did. We study this and we study that, and occasionally we talk about Jesus. But if we go back and make Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John one every quarter or something like that and study Jesus, then everything else will matter. But nothing what Paul said matters without Jesus. So you study God's Word, then you speak God's Word. Those things you do on a daily basis, your relationships, your home relationships, your church relationships, your community relationships, what you do when you drive your car and someone runs you off the road, your attitude is to be like Jesus, you speak like Jesus, speak God's Word, and have that right attitude. And secondly, you do God's Word. Faith without works is dead. So, when you study God's Word, you speak God's Word, and you do God's Word. That'll make the church tomorrow better than the church today.
When I think about the future of Cabot and my hopes for the future for this church, that would be it, that you would continue to allow God to use you to reach out to others.
I hope from this day forward, the future of Cabot continues to be a lot like the past 7 years, just spiritual health. We are a healthy congregation. Every congregation has their ups and downs. We've had ours, more ups than downs, but we are overall a spiritually healthy congregation, and that's my future hope and prayer for the church at Cabot, is that we will be spiritually healthy and that we will continue to be a positive light in the community.